If you really understand what stress is costing us mentally, psychologically, physically, and certainly from a performance standpoint, then it starts to make a lot of sense of why you'd want to sit in a chair and quote unquote waste your time for a few minutes a day. Because it's like anything but a waste of time, because stress is unfortunately making us sick as a species, stupid as a species, and slow. It's not mindfulness. Okay. So you're not just sitting and watching your thoughts, you're not just sitting and focusing. You're using a very specific technique that induces rest that is 5 times deeper than sleep. And when you give your body the rest that it needs, it knows how to heal itself.
Given that meditation, I would say one of the biggest struggles that I know people have with it is staying consistent. What would you say, or what advice would you give to people that want to bite-size this more daily? Like, how do you help them incorporate it?
I think the reason why people have a hard time committing to meditation is that they're doing styles that aren't made for them. There is this tool, this ancient, powerful tool that really has a terrible reputation. Like, it has really bad marketing. People think it's boring. People think they have to clear their mind. They think they have to sit still for a long time. Everyone thinks they're bad at it. And yet, it is, in my experience, the single most powerful stress relieving tool on the planet. And I also think it is the number one performance tool on the planet. And here's why.
Welcome to the Healing and Human Potential podcast, where today we're going to dive into transforming your thinking about stress, performance, and achieving your full potential. And so specifically, we're going to unpack the power of meditation as well as manifestation to support you in accomplishing more by doing less. And then if you've ever felt overwhelmed by stress or just wondering how to get to your next level personally or professionally, this episode is for you. I'm honored to be joined by a friend of mine, Emily Fletcher, who is the founder of Ziva Meditation, which has trained over 50,000 students in meditation, manifestation, and mindfulness. And she's going to be sharing her wisdom with you about how you can use these tools to unlock your full potential. And so whether you're looking to manage your stress better, understand what it is you truly desire, or just more fully step into another level of performance, this episode will offer you practical insights around ways that you can apply the teachings that she's sharing right away. Let's dive in. Emily, I'm so happy to finally have you on, sister. So welcome to the podcast.
What a delight to make this magic with you. I love you and I love your show. And here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, I did yours, you're doing mine. I'm like, there's so many things that I want to dive into, but I wanted to start off with talking about meditation for performance, because in our audience, we have people that are really interested in playing at the top of their field. And I know you talk a lot about meditation and how it can support our performance. Can you share a little bit about that so that we have a sense of how we can optimize and utilize this technology for our growth and our dreams?
When I started my career, I was teaching NBA players and Fortune 100 CEOs and teaching at Google and Apple and Viacom and Harvard, and felt like such an honor to be this bridge between the scientific world and the spiritual world, or like the business world and the spiritual world. And, sometimes we need translators. And so I feel like what I got really clear on when I started my career was like, hey, there is this tool, this ancient, powerful tool that really has a terrible reputation. Like, it has really bad marketing. People think it's boring. People think they have to clear their mind. They think they have to sit still for a long time. Everyone thinks they're bad at it. And yet, it is, in my experience, the single most powerful stress relieving tool on the planet. And I also think it is the number one performance tool on the planet. And here's why. Even though meditation is simple, if it is true that it is the most powerful stress relieving tool that we have, which I've never found anything more powerful, I've been doing it for about 16 years, then if you really understand what stress is costing us mentally, psychologically, physically, and certainly from a performance standpoint, then it starts to make a lot of sense of why you'd want to sit in a chair and quote unquote waste your time for a few minutes a day. Because it's like anything but a waste of time, because stress is unfortunately making us sick as a species, stupid as a species, and slow. So meditators perform 40% higher on something called the tripartite performance variability test, which is just a nerdy way of saying that they can do 3 things well at the same time. So they can perform an action quickly, accurately, and all while remaining calm. That's the 3 things that they're evaluating. Whereas
Mhm.
non-meditators can usually do something quickly and accurately, but they get really stressed. Or they can do it quickly, but not accurately, and they make mistakes. But to do it quickly, accurately, and all while remaining calm, meditators perform 40% higher than non-meditators. So I don't care if you're a coach or a stay-at-home mom or the CEO of a company, like we all need these skills. And so stress, I'm just trying to rebrand meditation from like people think it's like a pedicure for your brain or like a bubble bath for your brain. I'm like, no, y'all, this is the single most important piece of mental hygiene that we all need to be practicing,
Mhm.
especially as the intensity on planet Earth is ramping up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love
Mm.
meditation, and I love that you say stress makes us stupid. I think that's great. So
It's
talk
actually on
to
the
us
back cover of my book. It's like stress makes you stupid, sick, and slow.
stupid, sick, and slow. It's true. It's true. And I love that you're marketing in a way that actually helps people understand the value of it, even if they think they're just sitting and it's boring for them or they're just watching their mind, because that's one of the intentions. But helping you separate who you are and waking up from the mind rather than unconsciously be programmed and lived out of it. But
Mhm.
talk to us a little bit about like the science behind how meditation can reverse, being stupid, sick, and slow.
Yeah, I'll talk about that, and I'll also talk about how it can reverse your body age and your brain age, which is very exciting. So if we wanna get really, like, simple, which I think that simple is often quite profound, but if we want to understand why meditation is such a powerful stress relieving tool and why it's helping us to perform so much better, we wanna cut back in time a few thousand years and look at why and how the human body responds to stress in the way that it does. So our stress response has evolved out of a fight or flight stress reaction. So that comes from predatory attacks. So if you think about it, you're hunting and gathering in the woods, a tiger jumps out at you with the intent to kill. Your body's going to launch into a series of chemical reactions. Digestion will flood with acid because it takes a lot of energy to digest our food. So the acid shuts down digestion so that we have all of that energy for our brains and for our bodies to fight or flee. Now, the trick is that that acid then seeps onto our skin and makes our skin very acidic, which can prematurely age us. Also, our blood pressure increases and our vascular system constricts so that we can really like run very fast. Now, over time, that can lead to heart disease.
Mhm.
Your bladder and bowels will evacuate so that you can be light on your feet. This is what the nervous poos are, where your body's like, gotta empty out, gotta go.
Uh-huh.
And then finally, the immune system goes to the back burner because, again, like who cares about cancer if you're about to be killed by a tiger? Body needs all of that energy for the imminent threat. Now, here's the trick. That was very useful 10,000 years ago, but now in our modern day demands, this fight or flight stress reaction has become maladaptive. It's now disallowing us from performing at the top of our game. And what's happening is that most of us are in this chronic low grade fight or flight response all the time, which is the thing that's making us stupid, sick, and slow because it's like pickling ourselves. It's like we're dumping adrenaline and cortisol, which are stress hormones, which are acidic in nature, which is not only prematurely aging us, it's breaking down our skin elasticity, it's decreasing our brain neuroplasticity. It's obviously leading to a whole host of emotional and psychological issues, autoimmune issues, fertility issues, sleep issues. So when we think about meditation being just like something I'll get around to when I have a little bit of extra time, it's like, no, you guys, we've got to reframe this and understand that if you're willing to invest just 15 minutes a day, you are going to be giving your body rest that is 5 times deeper than sleep. And so this is actually the answer to your question.
Mhm.
Specifically with Ziva meditation, it's not mindfulness. Okay. So you're not just sitting and watching your thoughts. You're not just sitting and focusing. You're using a very specific technique that induces rest that is 5 times deeper than sleep. And when you give your body the rest that it needs, it knows how to heal itself. And the cool thing about Ziva is that it's not just healing you from the stress from today, it's actually getting rid of all of the stress from our past. And that happens through a technique that's going in and de exciting the nervous system. So when you de-excite something, you create order. And when you create order in the body, the lifetime of stress that we all have stored in our cellular memory can start to come up and out. And this is actually why we see such an increase in performance capabilities because it's not just about a state change. It's not like, oh, my boss yelled at me, let me do a few minutes of breathing, and now I feel better. we're actually creating a trait change. We're actually going in and healing the body on a cellular level and actually on an epigenetic level. You
Mhm.
can heal trauma inherited from the past. You can heal trauma that you would be handing down to your children, because Ziva is actually a physiological healing mechanism. It's not just about a mood booster or a state change. You're actually healing the stress at the source.
Yeah, I can see how important that is so that because you may know you're not being eaten by a tiger, but your body responds the same. If you're going to lose your job, you feel threatened. Your safety and survival is feeling threatened. Your body reacts the same way.
Yes.
So having what I'm hearing you say is like this meditation practice supports you in holding center and presencing what's coming up so you're not unconsciously living out of it.
Yes.
Imagine you're fully embodying the confidence you've always known was within you and you're effortlessly attracting dream clients, watching the impact that you're making in the world. No more doubting yourself, no more feeling like you're on the sidelines watching others succeed, and no more wondering where to find your next client or your first. Instead, you're thriving with a waitlist of dream coaching clients eager to work with you because they know you help your clients get results. If this sounds like something that you're desiring, then I'm so glad that this found you because I am hosting a new free 3-day live challenge called Self Doubt to Sold Out, happening October 8th through the 10th. And this is designed specifically for new and seasoned coaches, therapists, and healers who are ready to elevate their business, skyrocket their confidence, and become the go-to expert in their niche. So, in these 3 days, you're going to gain powerful embodiment tools that you can immediately use to create lasting transformation, not just in yourself, but for your clients as well. You're going to break through the blocks that have held you back from the success and income that you truly desire. And you'll discover a way to sell that feels good to both you and your potential clients so that you have them lining up to work with you. And so all of this is in support of you owning your confidence, becoming an in-demand coach. And the best part is that this challenge is completely free. And simply by participating, you're going to have the chance to win amazing prizes each day. So if you're ready to break through the barriers that have been keeping you stuck and start attracting the clients and the success that you've been dreaming of, this is your moment. Do not wait. You can go to alyssanobriga.com/challenge to save your spot for free now. Or you can click the link in the show notes to register for the Self Doubt to Sold Out Challenge, and let's discover all that's available for you. I cannot wait to see you thrive. I imagine, just in terms of also the connection, I love all the science you're bringing. So thank you for that. And I
Mhm.
imagine also meditation connects with neuroplasticity. So, and so talk to us about how it changes the brain and how it can support us in shifting habits, either growing out of old ones that we don't want or creating new ones that we do want to step into.
Yes. So neuroplasticity is one of my favorite things. And for those of you who might not know that term, because I know we've gotten so allergic to the word plastic. So, like, why would I want my brain to be plastic? But all it means is just the ability to change, right? It's
Mhm.
like the brain's ability to change is its neuroplasticity. And unfortunately, for many of us, we, eat the same things, have the same habits, have the same emotional patterns. It's almost like the neuropeptide grooves get etched in our brain. It's like things become solidified if we're doing the same thing day in and day out. And with meditation, what I love about it is that the benefits are actually cumulative, meaning that the longer you meditate, the more of the benefits you're going to get. And so while the neuroplasticity can happen even after a few weeks of meditating, the longer you meditate, the more plastic your brain becomes, which means the more quickly you can change your brain. Now, this is a theory. I don't know if this is true or not, so feel free to fact check me. But I've heard that our brain is not really solid matter and it's not even liquid, that it's actually more like a vapor, that things are moving so quickly and it's changing so quickly that it is like vapor. And yet, if you have the exact same decisions, the exact same thought patterns, things can start to harden and wire into place. So we want the brain to be agile, right? We want to be learning and growing and evolving. I mean, ideally until the day that we die. I think that our concept of death and dying is so um, outdated in the
Agreed.
West, and
Mhm.
I think there's a more enjoyable way to go about aging and dying, and I think that a lot of that has to do with how willing are we to be a beginner? How willing are we to learn? And do we have the mental and physical capabilities to do that? And so that's one of the things I love about meditation. And what I find is that if you start a meditation practice, it's like you are set up to learn new skills. You are set up to, I like to think of it as a hardware upgrade. So if people are working with a life coach or working with a therapist or wanting to implement a functional medicine protocol, if you are starting with the foundation of meditation, everything else gets easier, because if you're in a state of stay and play versus fight or flight, it is a lot easier to implement new habits, versus usually our bad habits come from a state of survival,
Mhm.
right? And so what the meditation is doing is it's getting you out of survival so that you can choose the new habits and you can choose the new skills that you want to learn.
Yeah, and a lot of people are like, I think the hardest thing that they struggle with is staying consistent. And I know this is a common phrase of like, if you don't have time to meditate, then you need to meditate twice as long. And I found that to be true of like when I feel like I don't have the time, but I actually choose to do it. And I love that you bite sized it for 15 minutes. And so I want to dive into that. But I found that actually I'm more centered. I make better decisions. I feel like more actually gets done because I took that time. And I've had a meditation practice maybe for, I mean, I think I accidentally found meditation since I was a kid, and consistently, intentionally since I was about 20, going to silent retreats. I've maybe been to in the low 20s at this point. I love silent retreats, and people don't have to be that extreme. But but given that meditation, I would say one of the biggest struggles that I know people have with it is staying consistent. What would you say, or what advice would you give to people that want to bite size this more daily? Like, how do you help them incorporate it?
Yeah. So I think the reason why people have a hard time committing to meditation is that they're doing styles that aren't made for them, right? Like
Mm.
you're a unique data point in that, your dad was a shaman. Like you are like a nerdy nerd about the brain and the body. You're like me, right? You're just
Yeah.
like drinking from the fire hose. And so like not everyone is like nerding out on the brain and spirit like we are. But
Totally.
I think that most people do genuinely want to feel less stressed. They genuinely want better sleep. They genuinely want better sex. They genuinely want to change their emotional habits, especially if they're listening to this podcast. But where this gets tricky is that if you're trying to do a style of meditation that was made for a monk and not for you, you're gonna feel like you're failing. It's going to feel hard. And this is one of the things that I have been shouting from the rooftops since I learned this practice, because I was like, wait, this is not hard. Like I look forward to it. It does not feel like a struggle. I'm
Mm.
in a different state of consciousness right out of the gate. This thing cured my insomnia on the first day. I didn't get
Wow.
sick for 8.5 years after I started. It reversed my gray. I was going gray at 26 years old. I'm now 45 years old and like just now starting to go gray. I have like the fertility at 45, I have the fertility of an 18-year-old. Like it's wild
What?
what has happened. Yeah, I just got my follicles checked.
Wow.
And I have so many stories of people who have like 42-year-old women who were not even candidates for IVF, 2 years of meditating, and then they were able to get pregnant. So I've seen so many stories like this. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is that I see people quitting again and again and again because they're trying to do styles of meditation that were not designed for them. They're trying to do monastic practices. And so, just to delineate this for people, most of what is on YouTube, most of the apps out there are actually derivations of monastic practices. They are like watered down versions of styles that were originally made for monks. And
Mhm.
this is confusing to me. And I know that people like we fetishize monks in the West and we think that, oh, like whatever monks are doing must be like better than what I'm doing because they're
Mhm.
monks. But actually, it's less than 1% of the world's population that is monastic by nature. And they have a different protocol than we do. And by we, I mean someone who has a job, maybe kids, likes having sex, lives in society, like not naturally reclusive. Okay. And
Mhm.
this is a big, important distinction because a lot of people think, well, if I could live more like a monk, then I could be holier. If I could just do these other practices and sit still for 10 hours a day for hundreds of days in a cave by myself, like then I would be closer to God. But that, if you are naturally a householder, that's denying your nature. And when you deny your nature and you sublimate the natural desires that have been given to you by cosmic intelligence itself, then those desires don't go away, they get sublimated. And where this applies to meditation is that you just feel like you're failing and then you quit, because none of us will do anything for very long that we feel like we're failing at. And so the
Mhm.
cool thing about Ziva is that it's not a monastic practice. It was actually made for householders. It was made for people like us, people with busy minds and busy lives. And so because of that, you only need a few minutes twice a day. And we use a tool that ushers you into a verifiable fourth state of consciousness very quickly. So within 30 to 45 seconds, your metabolic rate drops, your heart rate slows, your body temperature decreases, and you start to de-excite the nervous system, which creates order in your cells,
Mhm.
which again is that mechanism that allows the accumulated stress from the past to start to come up and out. And so the
Mhm.
cool thing here is that it doesn't take a lot of discipline. It doesn't take a lot of commitment, because you're like, oh, wow, that feels really good. And oh, wow, like you, to your point, I just got 6 hours of work done in 2 hours, right? Like instead of just like going to the coffee or the chocolate or the nap or going into the haze at 3 p.m., you steal away, do 15-minute meditation, and then you finish your workday and you have energy to hang out with your kids. You have energy to make love to your partner. You have energy to go to your hobby or go out dancing that night. And so that's just like the brass tacks of like, if this thing did nothing else for you but make you more productive in that mid-afternoon slump and then have energy and time to give to your beloveds, then that is so deeply worth the price of admission, which is really just 15 minutes twice a day.
It's beautiful. I love you're passionate about it. I can feel how alive you are. It's coming through the screen. I'm like, yeah, I want to meditate.
Yeah, let's just do it.
And
People
so,
people make fun of me. They're like, "Emily, you're like the most amped up meditation teacher in the world." And I don't even drink caffeine. But like
me neither.
I get so passionate about it.
I love it. I can feel it coming through. I'm juiced up by it. And so part what I hear is some of the practices like 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes midday. Is that part of it? Part of the Ziva
Yep,
technique? Yeah.
That's the Ziva technique. So we
Yeah.
in the morning before coffee, breakfast, or computer, and then 15 minutes like where you would have had the coffee or the nap or the chocolate, like in that mid-afternoon slump. You don't want to do Ziva before bed because it is giving you this rest. It's like about an equivalent of about an hour and a half nap, but without the sleep hangover. So you wouldn't want to do that at 10 o'clock at night, because then you would be wired until like 1 or 2 in the morning. Maybe
Yeah.
not wired, but it's
No,
not going
but
to help you sleep.
energized.
Yeah,
Yeah,
energized.
yeah. And some of the ancient practices, it roots back. I tell us a little bit about some of the origins of Ziva, just so we have context as we're because I
Right.
love that it's more digestible for modern day lifestyle people that is less
Yep.
monastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like both and. Like this practice, the meditation portion of the Ziva technique is based on a 6,000-year-old technique that comes from the Vedas, which is Veda, ancient body of knowledge that comes from northern India, now geographically Pakistan. Um, but it's a both and. It's an ancient practice. It was designed for householders, but because it was designed for people with jobs and kids and families, it takes less time, right? Like
Mhm.
it's quickly ushering you into a fourth state of consciousness, which is different from monks because ostensibly monks are meditating all day, right? Like that is their contribution to society. So they can actually afford to do more gentle practices or afford to do practices where they are more in their left brain or waking state. That is their contribution to society, versus if your contribution to society is like raising the next generation, being in commerce, being with other people in society, you just naturally have less time. So you want tools that are more effective and expeditious of getting you into that state of consciousness.
Mhm.
So like, some people would say that the tools that we use at Ziva are cheating, which by the way, the tool is simply a mantra. And that term mantra is been a little bit hijacked by the wellness industry. Now we use the word mantra as almost like as an affirmation,
Yeah.
like, I deserve abundance or I am healing, and those are beautiful, but I would call those affirmations, which is
Mhm.
different than the mantras that we use at Ziva, which are meaningless primordial sounds. And it is the sound quality of the mantras that de-excites the nervous system, very similar to cymatics, which is the science of sound. And I know that,
Mm.
sound is becoming very popular right now as a healing modality. So I think people are starting to really understand like sound baths. If you go and get a sound bath, what the gongs or the crystal bowls are doing is very similar, but that's happening from the outside in. The mantras are creating that same type of de-excitation, but from the inside out. And even though you're not chanting it, even though this is not an oral practice, just thinking the mantra internally creates that order and creates that de-excitation. But long story short is that it is digestible, it is bite-sized, but that is because it is so effective, because it is based on this 6,000-year-old practice. So it's based on something called Nishkam Karma Yoga, which means union attained by action hardly taken. So yoga means union, karma means action, and nishkam means hardly taken. So this is the lazy meditation. So it means you don't have to chant, you don't have to sit for 10 hours. It looks kind of like this. Like head slumping is very common for us, but it feels great. And then when I say it doesn't require any discipline, it's because it's like eating, like I don't need discipline to eat a piece of chocolate cake.
Because you
I
love
mean, it's
it.
like, that cake tastes delicious. I would really like to eat some of that, and that's how I feel about this style of meditation. Like, it feels really good, and I'm so much more productive on the other side. I'm a better mom, I'm a better CEO, I'm a better writer, I'm a better boss, I'm a better, all of it on the
Mhm.
other side. So for me, it doesn't
Mhm.
take discipline. It does take scheduling, though.
It does take scheduling, and as I'm hearing you, and I'm just hearing this for myself and inviting anybody listening to, if you're inspired, to test it out just for 1 week, see what happens when you meditate, maybe 3 times for this first week to kind of ramp up to daily if you want, but just to see what it's like what happens when I take the time, just 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes midway, like at a lunch break, to test this and see what happens. I'm definitely I've gone in and out. I mean, I've had a practice for so long, and I love some of the monk, style, but I also need
Yeah.
digestible, and when I'm very busy in my business, having something like this, and this is coming at a really great time because this is a busy period of time. And I know that I perform and I'm sharp mentally. I make better decisions. Have that calm. So thank you for all of this inspiration. I'm going to personally take it into my practice this week specifically and like reinvigorate it. And like you said, the muscle memory is there. So even if I'm not, actively lifting weights, doing meditation, that muscle memory can get reactivated pretty quickly. And there's a
Mhm.
foundation of the work prior.
Yeah. And then one thing I will just say, and I don't know what style of meditation you're doing, but with Ziva, because it is quite a powerful like de-stressor, like it
Mhm.
does kind of like wring the body out. That I do give people just a little bit of a warning when they do start the practice to just make a little bit of time and space for that
Thawing
catharsis that may
out.
happen. There might be some old stress, some old fatigue, some old sadness that comes up and out, and that might happen as well even if you've had a practice from the past. I mean, you might be a different use case because I know you're working on yourself all the time,
Yeah.
but just to hold a little bit of space and grace that even though we think, oh, meditation is going to make me feel amazing, and it will, it can be a little purgative. There can be some of the, I have a song inside of Ziva Online. That's our online training. And I sing, I go better out than in, better out than in, And I just remind people that there's more room on the outside.
That's right. That's right. And like, I love that you bring that up as not a warning, but just like this is normal if some of this old stress is being thawed out so that it can release and you don't have to carry it with you. You feel lighter afterwards. And a lot of, on the other side of that unconscious work is more creativity and expansion and freedom. So, yeah, better out than in. Yes. And I
Yeah.
know some of your work, like I know meditation is a big part of it. I know mindfulness and also manifestation. And that part of the work that you are doing with manifestation really like it tracks back to ancient spiritual practices as well. And so,
Mhm.
talk to us about manifestation in terms of neuroscience or psychology. Talk to us a little bit about the science that you know of. So, and then we can go deeper into some of the other areas of how that's expressing in your work and business now.
Yeah. So I would define manifesting, really simply as consciously creating a life you love. And so for anyone who's listening that's like manifesting sounds a little woo woo, or I'm just sick of hearing every wellness person talk about manifesting, it's like, it's just consciously creating a life you love. And if you're running a company or running a family or a coach who's setting goals for the quarter, like that is manifesting, right? If you're like, where do I want my kids to go to school? How much money would I love to make this year? Where do we want to go on vacation this year? Like all of those questions, that is manifesting. And the reality is we're all manifesting all the time, right? Like our thoughts become our reality. And what's trickier is that we can only manifest to the degree to which we have these sort of unseen limiting beliefs. So it's like we're all living in our own glass ceiling that is unfortunately or fortunately, depending on the cards that you were dealt, sort of created by your lineage, your intergenerational trauma, your societal trauma, that your childhood, like all of these things factor into what you believe you deserve. And what's fascinating to me about manifesting is that it gives you an opportunity to rewire some of those beliefs, to expand that glass ceiling of what you believe is possible for yourself. And, I mean, I would say a really simple, I don't know if this is super scientific. I mean, there is science behind it, but a simple way to explain this is that the better you feel, the better things you're going to attract, right?
Mhm.
It's like you need to be an energetic match for your dreams. And many of us have not been equipped with the tools to feel our feelings. I mean, you know this better than anyone, right? Like we've been trained since infancy to don't cry, have a bottle. Don't cry, have a toy. Don't cry, have an iPad. Don't cry, have some booze, have some pills, have some pot, have some online shopping, have some porn, but don't feel. Like
Mhm.
whatever you do, don't feel. Like we are living in a society that praises and celebrates people shoving down their emotions. And so just the simple ability to feel your feelings can be a radical act. And so the thing that's really lighting me up about manifesting right now, fascinatingly, is not even like the miracles and the magic that happens from the manifestation, but rather the skill set that is required in order for you to become an energetic match for your dreams. Which, here's the spoiler alert, it's really just learning how to feel your feelings in a safe and embodied way. And I know that you know this. You and I have met, we've busted many a move on a dance floor. So like the thing I'm stoked about with the manifesting right now is embodied manifesting, like
Mhm.
getting this practice out of just in our heads and really starting to feel our feelings with our whole being. And then as we do that, we start to be able to create more space, clear the channel to create more space, to magnetize the dream.
Yeah, and I love that you bring in doing the clearing out first, because I think a lot of times people hear manifestation and then they hear affirmations like I have a $1 million business, and then they subconsciously don't feel like they're worthy, they don't deserve it, and it's this that's the foundation that they're manifesting from. So I love that you're supporting people and actually clearing out those subconscious beliefs so that you can really drop into the quantum field what it is that you want by embodying it, but clearing what doesn't work and then doubling down on what does. I think that's what accelerates manifestation.
Yes, really beautifully said. Thank you for
Mhm.
that.
Mhm. And I know a lot of your work right now is focused on Ziva magic, and that's really the ancient wisdom and science blended together to support people in really stepping into their dreams. Talk to us about what the Ziva movement, the Ziva magic movement is, and what you've been working on.
Yeah. So I'm actually in Europe right now, so I don't have my usual background, but I'm in Europe, and I just finished part two of this pilgrimage that our mutual friend Layla and I started last summer. We went on a priestess pilgrimage last year, where we went to Eleusis, Delphi, and Crete, which are sites where these priestesses were holding ceremonies, doing rituals, serving medicine for thousands of years, and the heads of state and generals of armies would go to seek counsel from the Oracle of Delphi. Almost all of the leaders in Athens in the Grecian Empire would go to Eleusis to experience this ritual called at the Eleusinian Mysteries. And then just last week we went to the new Eleusis in Spain, and we got to see the chalice where they've discovered these vessels that these priestesses were serving medicine from and doing these rituals. And so I name all of that because it's alive for me right now. And two, there was a really beautiful, I'm going to say, reclamation that happened for me when I went to these sites, because as passionate as I am about it, I still had my own conditioning, my own shame around using some of these modalities. And when I got to see that, like, wait, actually much of Western civilization as we know it was born out of the very tools that have since been like sort of taken away from us, and we've been shamed away from and conditioned away from. It felt very empowered, and I felt like more confidence in these tools. So I'm speaking a little bit, I know I'm being a little elusive right now, but I'm speaking first to the ancient piece of it.
Mhm.
But really, the Ziva magic formula is very simple. It's three parts, and it is visualize, alchemize, magnetize. And I created these three parts of the magic formula to solve three issues that almost everyone I know has when they come up against manifestation blocks. And the first is that most people don't know what they want. Like, Emily, I want to manifest, but I'm not sure what to manifest. And Oprah Winfrey says that the people who are the most successful in the world know what they want. And I think because we've been so divorced from our bodies, we've been so divorced from our desire and our pleasure, sometimes it can also divorce us from what we want in our lives. So the whole first module of Ziva Magic is called Visualize. And the point is to give you the time and space to ask the question, like, what would I love? If I had a magic wand and I believe that I deserve my desires, like, what would I actually love? And I drop people into very like beautiful, coherent states of consciousness, and then I walk them through visualizations. And then the second module is called Alchemize, and this is really what we were talking about earlier: of how do we clear the channel? How do we get rid of those things that are energetically blocking us from believing that we deserve our desires? Because I've found that we don't get what we want in life; we get what we believe we deserve. And so again, if you've been dealt handed a card, like a set of cards that's like intergenerational trauma, racism, sexism, like, there's plenty of isms to be swimming in that are keeping you from your dreams. So what we do in the alchemize section is that we give people tools to actually practice like somatic dance, somatic movement. And so I have them go right into, hey, this dream that you're holding, this vision, is there a piece of you that's mad that it hasn't shown up yet? Is there a piece of you that is devastated that it may never show up? Is there a piece of you that maybe feels unworthy, like that it doesn't deserve this dream? And so there's a little bit of IFS and parts work into it, where I invite people to just name those parts, and then we dance them. We dance the sacred rage. We dance the sacred sorrow. And what's fascinating is that stuff that you've been pushing down for 20 years, you can truly metabolize and alchemize in like a 3-song dance party. It's just
Mhm.
fascinating how quickly it's like the feelings just want to be felt. And I know that you know this. You said this quote on my podcast. You said it's not the feelings that are painful, it's the avoiding of the feelings that is so painful.
That's
And
right.
so I
Yeah.
love this in Alchemize, is that people get to move their rage, their sorrow. And then what happens is that there's a little kernel of bliss. There's a little kernel of ecstasy that happens in the expression of the feelings. And so the magnetize module is all about pouring fuel on that fire. Like, how can we allow that bliss, that ecstasy that comes from the expression of the feelings to then allow you to feel really good, allow you to turn yourself all the way on so that you can magnetize your dreams? And the science on that is that the electromagnetic field around the heart is 5,000 times stronger than that of the head. So I'm going to say that again. The electromagnetic field of the heart is 5,000 times more powerful than the head. And so what I'm interested in is, can we get your head, your heart, and your hoo-ha all into coherence with each other and all pointed toward your dream? And what I've seen is when people do that, it starts to look and feel like magic. It's not actually magic, but it sure effing feels like it.
I love that coherence. And, even in the second stage of like clearing things out, meditation could be part of that. Orgasm can be part of that, right? Like I don't think people talk enough about how even an orgasm can be a release of like, with tears and just somatically letting things go that you've held up in the body. And so I love that you're bringing it together. So it's not just in your mind, but really lived in your gut, in your hoo-ha, in your knowing. Hoo-ha is another word for genitals, right? Just so people have
Yeah.
a reference point.
What's a hoo-ha? And everybody has a hoo-ha, like all
Yeah.
genders, male, female, non-binary. And I don't just mean the genitals, like just when we say heart, yes, we mean the organ that pumps the blood, but we also mean the field around it. Same
Mhm.
for hoo-ha. Like, yes, it is your genitals, it is your root, but I also mean the entire field around it, which is very powerful. But because many of us are sort of divorcing ourselves from our own sexuality, from our pleasure, It's like we're cutting ourselves off at the leg, especially when it comes to manifesting. Because again, the better you feel, the higher quality things you're going to attract. And nature has installed inside of all of us an extraordinarily powerful internal pharmacy of feel good chemicals. So everything that you get when you're meditating, like dopamine and serotonin, those happen during pleasure practices, but we also add in norepinephrine, adrenaline, oxytocin. So it supercharges these feel good chemicals, which is why I think that embodied manifesting is so much more powerful than manifesting just from the neck up. Because not only is it head, heart, and hoo ha, but also the neurochemical cocktail that gets released is extraordinarily powerful. Like to your point in orgasm, like I think it's why I'm so obsessed with meditation and medicine and pleasure is that all three are ways to transcend the identity. All three are means by which to practice dying. Like you're moving beyond the left brain and into the right. You're moving beyond individuality and into totality. Like orgasm in French is called le petit mort, right? It's the little death. And it's the same. That's what I say about Ziva meditation is that we're practicing dying because we're going beyond the small self ego every single day, twice a day. And so when you do that, when you transcend an ordinary state of consciousness with these heightened, ecstatic, pleasure filled states, you get closer to the field of infinite potentiality. You get closer to the field of limitless possibility. And that is where we manifest from, right? It's from the field of everythingness. But we can't manifest everything all at once. And so we choose, right? That's what we do in the visualize. You choose what's one thing that I would love right now. We see that, we feel it, we create the five senses reality. And then to alchemize, we clear anything standing in the way. And then when the magnetize, we turn ourselves on, we tap into the most magnetic force on the planet, which I call creation energy, to magnetize your dreams.
It's beautiful. And from that place of knowing, going beyond yourself, knowing that you are all of it and none of it. There's on an egoic level, it's like embodying what I thought I wanted from the goal. I'm no longer a victim to the goal and I no longer need it, which is more powerful than to attract it, right? Because there's not that need energy. But then on an essence level, it's waking up to realize that you are all of it. And then it's just a creation. It's a play. It comes from a different place rather than there's no separation. So ego and essence in both ways, it supports us in embodying what we are, which is
Ah,
beautiful.
that's so beautifully said. And I'll just also link that back to the pleasure piece is it and to meditation. Like I've always said, because I've been teaching meditation and manifesting since 2017, and I've always said that the whole really is greater than the sum of its parts. Because if you start your manifestation practice with meditation, then you are flooding your brain and body with dopamine and serotonin, which are bliss chemicals. So you're starting it from this place of I already have everything I need. I already am totality. And from that place of fulfillment, what would I love? Knowing that our desires are divinely inspired. Right? I believe that our desires are here as a GPS to indicate where nature would like to use us to deliver our fulfillment to the world. Our desires are not here to indicate where we need to fill ourselves up. But that is much easier said than done unless you have a meditation practice, right? Like unless you have a daily practice of flooding yourself with dopamine and serotonin. But what happens with the pleasure practices, what we do in Magnetize, is that sense of I have everything I need, that sense of wholeness, that sense of fulfillment. Like imagine how you feel after an orgasm, right? I ask people this a lot and they say, blissful, whole, connected, pure, holy, divine. And to manifest from that place is much more effective than like, oh my God, I've got to meet my quarterly deadline or I'm going to lose my job. Or oh my God, I have to get married before I'm 30 or I'm going to die alone with cats eating my face. Like that need and desperation is not that sexy
Yeah.
or that effective.
Yeah, or true, it's just like getting hijacked by the reptilian brain and really part of the work that you're doing. I love that you have the middle piece around doing the deeper work because without that then it's not authentic. It's not really you're not digesting the fear, lack and separation that is part of our DNA, is part of what we're evolving beyond. And so I love that you've got this whole system now coming together so that because as you embody it, you no longer need it. And you're like, oh, I am what I thought that I wanted. And then life mirrors that and magnetizes it as a result. Yeah.
And then you realize this tricky law of manifestation, which is that detachment is one of the key factors in manifesting. But it's
Surrendered
hard to be
action.
detached if you don't have like a visceral, physical means by which to create that feeling in your body.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
And tell us maybe one of like the wildest or unexpected transformations that somebody has manifested through using this technique, just to give us a full picture of it.
Yeah, there's been so many. One woman got like met the love of her life and tripled her salary in the same week, the week after our retreat. And I was like, okay, like we are starting strong. I had a guy sell his company, for like $650,000, and then he like got it back. So he like got the money from selling his company, but then he also got the company back in some like crazy turn of events. And um but there's a story that I just love. It's not even a manifestation story as much as it's like a realization story. I had this man, he was like mid-40s, firefighter from Miami, straight, white, cisgendered dude, has never done any sacred sexuality, kundalini tantra, like none of it. He just like showed up. I don't even know how he got there, honestly. It's like, what? But we did breath work. And afterwards he sits up and he's crying and he was like, wow. I'm just going to say it and you can delete it afterwards if it's not a fit for the audience. But he goes, wow, I now know what it's like. I found my energetic pussy and I liked it. And I was
Yeah.
like, and then he said, I felt what it was like to gestate my unborn daughter. And he's weeping tears. And so I was like, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the crumbling of the patriarchy looks like. It has nothing to do with destroying anything, it has everything to do with giving people a visceral gnosis of what the divine feminine is. And that is not male or female, that is in all genders, in all humans. And I really believe that if we as a species can tap into, yes, our masculine pieces of us that want to achieve and want to hunt and want to be decisive, that is holy, yes. But so is the feeling, so is the gnosis, so is the connection with the earth, so is the stillness. And because we've gotten so imbalanced in our society, I think that we've lost the polarity that actually creates the magnetism. And it's what I love about this Ziva magic formula, because I think that the visualize is quite masculine, right? It's like you deciding what it is that you want. And then the alchemize section is so feminine. It's all about the heroine's journey. It's about going inside and feeling like what's the internal odyssey. And when you have that duality of the masculine and the feminine, that creates this polarity and this magnetism that allows you to attract your dreams. And so
Mhm.
to have this sort of like hyper masculine man have this profound experience of his own feminine nature felt like, for me personally, one of the most profound things I've witnessed in my career.
It's beautiful. And it sounds like even though he didn't look the part, like he fit right in and was having profound experiences from being open-minded and just discovering what was actually possible and what he was available for him. And I'm curious in terms of like examples for people to start with some of the practices or rituals in their lives. What can that look like for them? Like if they're like, "Oh, I want to play with this." Like where's like the easiest way for them to get started?
Yeah. So I would say, I basically just gave the recipe. Like I just basically gave you the formula. So spoiler alert, it's visualize, alchemize, magnetize. So I would say, if you want to just try this on your own, you could, take a moment, write down something that you would love, and then tune into anything keeping you from it, right? And like if it's sadness, like play a sad song and move it. If it's rage, play a ragey song and move it. And then from there, see if you can tune into the best feeling in your body. And like, there might be a piece of you that likes the tears or that likes expressing the rage, or, put on a sexy song, or, do something that makes you feel good. And from that place of feeling good, then tune back into the dream, tune back into the thing that you love. This was news to me. I didn't know there were different types of manifestors, but we call them active or receptive. And maybe this will be helpful for folks listening, but active manifestors are people who really can see all the details. They smell it, they taste it, they touch it, like, and the details really excite them. You know, they can see the paint color on their dream home, they can feel the leather of this dream car. I am more of a receptive manifester. So I don't see the details when I'm manifesting. It's more of just a feeling in my body. And when I discovered that there were different types of manifestors, it liberated me from feeling a little bit like a failure, because I was like, well, I don't know what he looks like. I don't know what the car smells like. And so when I just stopped trying to make those specifics happen for myself, I could spend more energy on the feeling. And so it's really liberated me.
Does that root back to the human design technology,
Yeah.
the specific
Mhm.
manifestor, non-specific? Yeah. And I
Yeah.
love that because some people can't visualize. And I also just want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. But what I hear you saying, Emily, is like the energy, the coherence, like embodying it is what's most important. And the other thing I just want to highlight and double click on what you said earlier is your identity, I think, is the biggest thing for manifestation. Who you think you are and what you think you're capable of, and actually transcending who you think you are, waking up to who you are. You have a body, but you're more than your body. As
Yeah.
you wake up to your fullness, you can drop into the quantum field what it is you want, knowing that you already are it, and it accelerates everything. So I love the formula that you're doing. But the other thing I just wanted to share and talk about, because one of the things that people really love and want think that they want is money, and oftentimes that they're held back by feeling some level of scarcity or lack of abundance, and yet our true nature is abundant. And
Mm.
so at the heart of it, it's like we think we're inadequate in some way, and then we project it onto time or money. When we have money, it transfers to time, but it's the same scarcity mindset. And so for people that are wanting to actively move through that, what would be a practice that would help them in that sort of alchemized stage? And of course they
Mhm.
can do it on the workshop as well, but just something, because I know this is a big
Mhm.
topic for definitely my audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for naming that. That the time and the money are actually the same root fear, right? And then we just apply it to one or the other. Um, and so I would say just tune into, like, what is alive for you right now. If you could wave a magic wand and have more time or more money, like, what does that look like? Like, vision into that. And what I really like with manifesting is, what do you want and why do you want it? Because if you can get to the why you want more money, why you want more time, that's usually where the juicy bits are going to be in the manifestations. And then you can let go of the when and the how, right? Because where we humans mess it up is we start to try and control the when and the how. And one of the things that we do inside of the first module in the visualize section, which I love that you just said, is that I actually have a whole meditation where I have people merge future you and you. So you actually tune into the version of you that's already achieved this thing, that already has the dream. And we just, whoop, we let future you come to you, and you get to tune into what aspects of yourself have been dialed up or down, like what version of you is required to be an energetic match for this dream. And so I would say spend some time with that. Like, if you have a financial goal, like, tune into, what do you want, like, what is the amount of money, or and then why do you want it, because that's going to give you a lot of clues. Oh, I want it because I want to have more time, or I want to have more freedom, or I want to spend more time with my kids. And so if you can just do that visualization of, what does it like feel like to spend more time with my kids, then you can merge that version of you with this version of you now. And then what happens is that it starts to reprogram all the subtle subconscious decisions that we're making throughout the day, right? And so there's really, like, this work is both subtle, but it's tectonic, right? Like, you're moving the plates at a very deep level. And when you create these tectonic shifts inside of yourself, the ripple effect of that into the way that we spend our time, the way that we decide what car to buy or what to put on your calendar in a day, shifts based on really your priorities, and the priorities are determined by your desires. So this work is like the opposite of frivolous, right? It is like so core and so foundational. And the thing that I love is that you could do the entire Ziva Magic program on money. Like, you could do the whole formula on money, and then you could do it again on your dream partner. And you could do it again on your dream career. Like once you know this formula, you can apply it to anything in your life.
Mhm. Yeah, and the other thing I love about it is as soon as you get clear on what you want, it's common and normal for the blocks to come up. So you're helping them clarify and then you're having them work with the blocks. And so for people that even design experiences, or if you're like even trying to go for a new goal, expect the block to come up, because if you could have done it on your own, you would have. And so there's something that's looking to be met and integrated in your nervous system, and this is part of the alchemize, and so that you can then magnetize. So I think it's a great design, and I love that you're opening it up to just lead a workshop for people for free to experience this in their lives. Share with us, because I love you so much, and there's so many different ways that we can go in this. And just like in closing, if there's anything you want to leave people with so that they either know, experience, embody, like what would you want them to, what do you want to share with them in closing? What's most
Yeah.
important?
Is it like in a world that feels like it is getting increasingly intense, like the intensity is increasing and it feels like exponentially, and the reality is that the rate of change on the planet is going to increase exponentially, right? Like right now, AI is an infant, but the way that things are going to change in healthcare, in politics, with money, with religion, like all of it, nothing is constant. And that, I don't think that we as humans were designed to evolve as quickly as technology and the world are going to be going. And so that is going to cost us something as a species. That is going to cost us something, and we're going to have to adapt to that. And so it would make sense for us to get more stressed. It would make sense for us to have a lot of fear around that and anxiety. And there likely will be some grief as many of the systems as we know it change. And so the thing that I feel so passionate about is that these tools inside of Ziva Magic are not only going to give you the tools to grieve, to actually feel the profundity of the change and the potential loss that we are heading into as a species, but what's more exciting, and really what I want people to put their attention on, is that there is no ceiling on your pleasure. There is no ceiling on how good you are capable of feeling. I was just last night with our mutual friend Layla, and we were dancing, and one of my friends was DJing, and we're in Ibiza, and we just got off this amazing magical tour of Europe, touring these sacred sites, and we're about to be facilitating together at this like world-class retreat, and we just looked at each other and we're like, does life just keep getting better and better and better? And we're like, yes, it does. And I said, and there's no ceiling. And like that's the thing that I want people to know, of like, because we cannot be something if we can't see something. And I have been able to be it because of people like Layla, because of people like you, because of people like Regina Thomashower, like these friends that I have that are so bravely willing to go into their darkness and to feel all of their shit and then alchemize it and transmute it into literal gold. And then it's like the roof just gets blown off of what you believe you deserve, of what you believe is possible. And what I'm seeing in my own life and in the lives of the people practicing this is that it truly does just keep getting better and better and better.
Thank you for being an example. Thank you for inviting people to use the tough as fertilizer to alchemize and really step into unlimited potential, and to say yes to their full spectrum of the human experience, to use it, to dance with it, to alchemize it. I love you. I'm so grateful that you're doing this work in the world. I cannot wait to squeeze you in person next time I see you, which I know will be soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for sharing your work with the world and this work with the world. I feel really honored and excited for people.
Love you. Thank you so much for doing this work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a difference. And if you're finding value in this podcast, a cost-free way to support us is by leaving an up to 5-star review. It does mean the world to us. And as a thank you gift, we're going to send you one of the most powerful tools that you will ever discover. You're going to get behind the scenes access showing you how to live into your full potential without letting fear hold you back from stepping into your dreams. Just head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave a review now. You can take a screenshot before hitting submit and then go to alyssanobriga.com/podcast to upload it. And make sure to have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much magic I can't wait to share with you. And you can find all this information in the show notes below. But lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello. I'm at Alyssa Nobriga. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you.